Hey everybody, so yes, I am back. I am going to be doing some new videos and talking about some records and vinyl and all that good stuff. But before I get started, I wanted to address a couple of things. First and foremost, why I felt the need to leave for a while. I was struggling. I was struggling with my mental health. I was struggling with a lot of other issues in my life, and I just needed something needed to give. So I decided I just needed to step away and created a very dramatic goodbye vinyl community video, which I have now taken down. It's a little embarrassing to me, but yeah. So I decided, I want to come back. I want to start making videos again. I also, because I realized one of the reasons that I decided to leave was just the fact that I felt like there was negativity, or it was all really basically stuff that I had made up in my head. But I've also started to realize that you need to spread joy, life, truth, beauty into the world, and that's something that I want to be doing with my life and with other things in general. So I've been watching a lot of the Jazz Shepherd's videos, and if you haven't checked out his channel, go check him out. Super cool guy, just super knowledgeable about everything jazz. And he talks a lot about other topics and other things, and I don't know if I'll do as much of that, but I think that it's important just to come at here with no pretense, no context. I'm not gonna worry about making content anymore. I'm not gonna worry about coming out with a video every week. I'm not gonna worry about the channel so much. I worried about that. There's no need to do that. It's so stupid. It's so dumb. This is just an avenue to share with people. And there were many of you that reached out and commented on that last video saying, please don't go, please just reconsider, or you know what, take a break, come back. And I took that advice to heart, and it's just really important to take a breather. So I'm not gonna worry about posting all the time, and just gonna focus more on just really enjoying this thing and sharing music with you guys. So to get started and back into the swing of things, I am going to be sharing some recent pickups. It's been almost 4 months since I last saw you guys, so I picked up quite a bit, and so I just decided to kind of go through, piecemeal it, and pick out some highlights that I enjoyed. Behind me here, there are some albums that I picked up. I got this Sean Lee and Soul Searchers amazing record. Super great funk groove. And Isis, There Ain't No Backing Up Now. And that's just a phenomenal follow-up from their first LP. This is a record that, just all-female funk group. Just so tight, so good. And then this deluxe edition reissue of Curtis Mayfield's self-titled debut album. It just sounds so spectacular. So, there are a few in here that I'm not going to be able to get around to today, but maybe I'll share them sometime. Maybe I'll go through everything that I've gotten, but just gonna go through a smattering of what I have. So yeah, let's just get started. So I'm starting off with some of these newer Blue Notes that have been coming out. One that was really high up on my list, and I was able to snag before they kind of have vanished here, is Kenny Burrell's Midnight Blue. This is what's playing on the turntable right now, and holy crap, this album is so freaking good. I mean, I've always loved this album. It's one of my top 5 favorite jazz records. You just feel the soul dripping off of the strings that Kenny Burrell brings to this session. And it just has kind of a Latin, Afro-Cuban feel to it too. It's one of the best-selling Blue Note albums of all time for a reason. It's just a great record. And yeah, this is the classic reissue, audiophile reissue, and it's phenomenal. I love it. You know, the chances of ever finding a super clean copy of this that are original are like slim to none. So I'm really happy with the $22 that I paid for this record. And if you're looking to just break into jazz, this is a great album to get started with. So really, really cool record. Next, this one was, I stumbled upon this at Watertown Paramount Records, and oh geez, super excited to find this. This is the Tone Poet reissue of Oblique by Bobby Hutcherson. Now this album had never had a proper issue. It came out in like the 1970s. This was a shelved session. Bobby Hutcherson is joined by Herbie Hancock, Albert Stinson, and Joe Chambers in this, and it is just a moody, sexy record. I love this album. It sounds so good. It is just, it's amazing that this record was shelved. It's incredible to me that some of these albums never saw the light of day, and you know what? But that just shows you like the high quality that they were working with at the time, and I'm really grateful that Tone Poet has kind of been reissuing some of these that have been in the vaults rather than necessarily always going with the super popular titles. So this was one that I was so excited to get. And then next, this was the most recent Tone Poet release, and this is Wayne Shorter's All Seeing Eye. This is an incredibly spiritual, a little bit, you know, on the free side of things. And, you know, the story of this record is what really gets me. This is basically Wayne Shorter's interpretation of Genesis, and basically how God is the all-seeing eye in the creation of man and the fall of man. And it ends, the final track is called Mephistopheles, and it ends with the fall of man, and it really just captures the chaos, the beauty, the danger and destruction that was, you know, in the spiritual interpretation of man's creation. And just, it's a beautiful record. If you haven't listened to it and you want to kind of push outside your boundaries, maybe listen to something a little bit more free, this is a great album to do that. Oh, and next, I got one of my favorite artists. He's one of my favorite comedic actors working today. And yeah, just some really great stuff. Finally found his material. Very difficult to find. It's usually only on UK imprints. So shipping cost is really difficult. But finally found these records. This is Matt Berry. Matt Berry was well known for his roles in the IT Crowd, The Mighty Boosh, and then most recently in What We Do in the Shadows. If you haven't watched that show, do it. It's like The Office for vampires. Just really, really great. But Matt Berry's an amazing comedic genius, but he is also pumping out some of the best pastiche of 70s folk psych, and just incredible stuff. Very, very good. This is an amazing album, very audible in tone for people who really enjoy like the movie The Wicker Man, or if you're really like just kind of that spooky, eerie, folky music of 70s horror cinema, this is really going to be up your alley. This is an incredible album, and I'm so happy to have this one in the collection here. Then, this was one that was just super high on my want list. This is Witch Hazel by Matt Berry. This is the 10th anniversary edition. This album came out in 2011. And the big song on here is Take My Hand. I remember hearing this one on a show that Matt Berry was in called Toast of London, which is a great show. Another very weird, quirky British humor. But if you're kind of into gonzo humor, that's going to be a really good one to check out. And his music was featured quite a bit in that show, a little bit more on the tongue-in-cheek side, but the title song, Take My Hand was such a beautiful, sincere pop gem. And that's what this, and I just love the sincerity. There is a little bit of humor in this record, but overall, it's a very sincere, lush Baroque pop record with psych-tinged elements, and I would just really recommend anyone who hasn't listened to Matt Berry, maybe give that song a listen. That's a really good one. And then finally, for the rounding out the Matt Berry collection for now, we have Phantom Birds. This one was released last year, and for a lot of people in some other channels, they were mentioning this as top 10 record, and I would have to agree. This is an amazing collection of Americana folk songs with a little bit of a psychedelic tinge to them. But this is probably his strongest collection of songs. Again, just his voice is very clear. There isn't a lot of reverb drenched on it. It's very similar to Bob Dylan's Nashville Skyline to me. I think that this is one that if you're really into kind of Americana, folk, kind of a Graham Parsons, Birds type of feel, then this will definitely be up your alley. I thoroughly recommend it. And then my best friend Nick, he and I, we love the band All Them Witches. I had 2 records that was missing by them, and he helped me to like kind of fill out these holes. And so finally got a copy of Sleeping Through the War by All Them Witches. If you haven't listened to them, they're very similar to kind of a sludgy, doomy version of Led Zeppelin. I really, really like their sound. And Sleeping Through the War was not my favorite album by All Them Witches, but they just have this, when I threw this on the turntable, I was amazed at the layers that were involved. It definitely comes alive on vinyl, and it's just a much better record there. It's also just badass. I love that album artwork. So cool record. Thanks a lot, Nick. And then he also gave me this album. It's called Dying Surfer Meets His Maker, also by All Them Witches. And this one reminds me more of Zeppelin 3, has a lot of acoustic elements to the music, and you know, I think that this is a beautiful album. It's a little bit more on the jammy side, and you can definitely lose yourself in the instrumentation. It's a much more meditative record than some of their other albums, and I would, you know, if you're kind of more into the jam band, psychedelic music, this would be really up your alley as well. Now, I really got into electronic music, and especially on the Brain label. Very difficult to come across this stuff, but I got a couple of albums by this artist, but I really enjoy this record. It's Klaus Schulze, Moon Dawn. For fans of Tangerine Dream or Mark Garson, this is just really good, heady, krautrock, space age, electronic music. Great for meditation, it's good to have in the background, but it's also great to have a nice deep listen. There's a lot more going on in this music. It's kind of crunchy. It has a lot more elements of to bring your attention into the grooves than some of these other electronic artists. And Moon Dawn to me is just an absolute classic. This is an original German pressing on the Brain label. And I got this one off Discogs for super cheap. It was only $6. His albums are not that crazy expensive, so if you're looking to get a crack into this type of music, I would highly recommend Klaus Schulze. And then we have, this was a recent reissue as well, coming off of Epitone, a label that is a subsidiary of Epiphone, or not, Epigraph, or something like that? Or Epitaph, that's it, Epitaph. And this is the Blue Stingrays. Surf and Burn. Now, the story behind this one is that Tom Petty's backing band, the Heartbreakers, recorded this album in 1997, and it's been kind of languishing. It only had a CD release. There was a lot of, behind the scenes copyright law, because technically they were not allowed to cut an album for any other label. They were on contract. But now it seems like things have been resolved and they're finally getting a reissue of this. And this is a phenomenal surf rock album. Just really beautiful guitar tones on here, dueling guitars, and definitely stands toe to toe, shoulder to shoulder with some of the best surf rock albums from the 1960s. So this is a really cool album. Super happy to finally have this one. And I mean, they totally nailed that Delphi artwork. Just really, really cool. And then another recent reissue from the Coal Mine label. This is Junior Thomas and the Volcanoes, Beware. This is a straight up love letter. I mean, it says even on the hype sticker, this is a sincere love letter to classic Jamaican music. It sounds a lot like Bob Marley and the Wailers. This is just good reggae. So if you're looking for something a little bit more outside of the box, this isn't necessarily where you're gonna find it, but sometimes you just want to throw on something that sounds great, and this album does. I think that some of the songs, they're just so heartfelt, they're so real, they're so warm, and I just love the sentiment of these songs. They're loving, they're spiritual, they're full of kindness, and it's just a really cool album, and also released on this beautiful like golden orange, limited to only 1,500 copies. So I don't know if they're still available out there, but I was able to snag one up, and I think you can get them on Discogs still for a pretty decent price. So I'm gonna switch over this record and keep on talking about some other records. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna need my brain juice. And then I picked up another reissue here, and this is Placebo 1973. This is the album that came directly before Placebo self-titled. I grabbed both these reissues at the exclusive company in Appleton, and man, these are just such good jazz funk fusion albums. Really, really great. The originals cost like anywhere between $300 to $500, and this is a Music on Vinyl reissue. I picked this one up for $10. You can't ask for anything better than that, and it's just a really, really nice sounding album. You can pick up a copy for yourself for only $25 to $30 if you're really into that jazz funk fusion with European sensibilities. This is really going to be something that you find yourself enjoying. So this is one that I highly recommend, and one that I really, really am happy that I snagged. And then this one's probably going to be on my top albums of 2021. This came out on white vinyl, and this is The Rugged Nuggets, Odds and Ends, released on the Coal Mine label. Again, Coal Mine just coming out with hot stuff. This was featured on Noble Records. Dylan talked about these guys. I think he also mentioned them in his Coal Mine video. I'm not sure, but this is just a really nice hot slab of soul funk instrumentals, but it has West Coast sensibility, so it's a little bit more laid back. It's grooving. It's not in your face. It's not trying to call attention to the virtuosity of the playing. It's supposed to put you into a mindset of cool, and that's what this album is. It's just cool. And also Coal Mine releasing everything on just high quality wax, high quality recording, high quality production. You can't go wrong with them. So great album, great vinyl. great band, great album. So really, really cool. And then this one I just thought was so cool that I was able to snag this. This was Amandul 2, Carnival in Babylon. Grabbed this one for $6, and you know, this one I would say, this came after Yeti and Wolf City. They were kind of starting to go into a little bit more of a commercial phase. This one came directly before Viva La Trance, and I think Viva La Trance is a slightly stronger album. But this one has some really cool elements. They introduce elements of folk music, and they more melodic singing, and they try and go commercial in only the way that Amandul 2 could go commercial, which means it's still freaking weird, it's really out there, and full of proggy, psychedelic goodness. So, but you know what? You just never see Amandul 2 here in good old Wisconsin. So, very, very happy to have this one on vinyl. And I also read the Unknown Sounds book recently. That was featured again on Dylan's Noble Records channel, and it got me into library music. And library music was basically it's a genre, if you could call it that, of albums that were used primarily for studios in Europe, primarily in Europe, some in America, but if they want to kind of save money on their soundtrack for a television program, a radio program, or even a movie, they would just pull songs from these library albums, and they would just have like a single vibe or feel, or they would have specific like, okay, this is the sound of spookiness, or this is the sound of autumn, or electronic sounds, and just some really cool gonzo out there material. But this one is, I think, one of the best, and this is an album called Feelings. Now, the record says it's by Jay Richford and Gary Stevan, but that is misleading, because this actually was recorded by two European gentlemen. These were aliases. I know for a fact that one of them was Stefano Trissini, and I can't remember the other. But this is like the holy grail of library music albums, and it is funky, it is cool, and it is just one of those albums that makes you feel like you want to just strut down the street and everyone's going to be watching you because you look like such a badass. And this is the most recent reissue. Again, original copies of this go for $1,500. So I'm just happy to have a reissue of this amazing, incredible record. So if you're looking to break into the weird, strange world of library music, this is a great album to do that with. And then coming to a record that I've been wanting, it's been on my want list. This came out in 2020. This is the Dream Syndicate, The Universe Inside. Love that artwork. And this is very different from anything that the Dream Syndicate has come out before. It's very psychedelic, but also has elements of jazz fusion. It sounds like there are moments that really bring up Bitches Brew to me in this record. It is a heavy, long jam stew that it bleeds into the subconscious. It's a really interesting album, and it's very challenging. Not many people are going to want to throw this one on in comparison to Days of Wine and Roses, but I think that this one is incredibly rewarding, especially after multiple listens. And I just think that it is a really trippy, wonderful record. So very happy to have this one finally in our collection. And now we're kind of coming, like, I'm throwing in some stuff that's kind of a little bit more difficult to find, a little bit kind of stranger. But this one, I really got into MF Doom. Really got into like conscious hip hop. But this one is kind of a more fun record. It's almost I wouldn't say novelty, but there is a bit of kitsch to this. And this is Danger Doom. This is a collaboration between DJ Danger and MF Doom, and it's called The Mouse and the Mask. And it also uses many samples and collaborations with the voice actors who did voice acting work for Adult Swim back in 2006. So there's Aqua Teen Hunger Force, Family Guy. You also have, Space Ghost Coast to Coast, Harvey Birdman, Attorney at Law showing up. It's just a really fun album and just such great production on this. I am super happy to have this one. This is the 2016 deluxe reissue with some really great artwork that goes along with this. And yeah, I'm just super happy to have this one in the collection. One of my favorite hip-hop albums. It's been hitting the turntable quite a bit. So then we're getting into some Blue Note fun. This is Lou Donaldson, Alligator Boogaloo. This is just a solid Boogaloo record. And this is an original copy on Liberty Press, the Liberty Pressing Plant, and this is one of those solid late period Blue Note 1967 albums where they're just kind of flirting with the soul jazz, and this is just a really intelligent yet groovy record. And if you haven't listened to Lou Donaldson, this is a great place to get started. Very, very cool album. And then I picked this one up. This is an original, or I can't quite place it. It might be a very, very, very early repress, but like literally just like months after the first pressing. But this is Back at the Chicken Shack with the incredible Jimmy Smith, featuring Stanley Turrentine, Kenny Burrell, Donald Bailey. This is, if there's one Jimmy Smith album to listen to, this is the album. And I just really dig it. It's great. Super happy to have it. And it was a very cheap find. This was another gift, and I've never seen this one out in the wild before. I'm sure that it's come across, but maybe I wasn't looking for it at the time. But this is the Great Lost Kinks album, and this is full of A-sides and B-sides and singles that were released between the time of, I wanted to say, The Kinks Are the Village Green, and right before they left for RCA. And apparently Ray Davies was lying in bed. He went over to his newspaper and saw that this album had been released on Reprise, and it was sitting at like number 28, and they had never given permission for Reprise to actually press these albums onto wax, so they had that basically pulled from the shelves. So many of these songs were unavailable for years until the deluxe editions of these records started coming out, and I'm just so happy to have a collection of these incredible songs in one location and finally have this on vinyl. This was definitely one that I've been searching for a long time. So really, really cool to have this one. And the Kinks are one of my favorite bands of all time. And if you haven't listened to them, just do yourself a favor. Go and listen to the Kinks. They're great. And then finally, another record I had never seen out in the wild, and this is Miles Davis's Aura. This was recorded in 1985, released in 1989. Davis had left Columbia by this time. and this was the final album that he recorded for Columbia, but they shelved it. Then he came out with Tutu and a couple of other records, and I believe that this was the final album to be released in Davis's lifetime. And this one, it kind of reminds me a bit of Sketches of Spain in the way that it's a big band project, but this is Davis meets ECM. This was done with a lot of musicians, but the primary person who was doing all of the arrangements was Paul Mickelborg. I believe that was his name. But he does all of the arrangements, so there's a definite European feel to this record. And one that was never ever seen on before or after. And I think that there's just a lot of really neat sounds on here. I really wish that he could have been able to explore this type of music for a little bit longer. That's not to say that everything on here works, but it's definitely, for me, the best 80s release that Miles ever came out with. Even superior to Tutu, because it's more artistic. It's more, there's a lot of intelligence brought into this. Whereas Tutu is definitely his big commercial breakthrough of the 80s. This is Miles still thinking in a classical jazz idiom. And something that I don't think we'd ever see from him again throughout his lifetime. So yeah, really, really cool. I'm so happy to have found a copy of this. And yeah, so those are the records that some of the records that I've found recently. Not that was all of them. And again, guys, I know this video was incredibly long. It was a lot of rambling. Kind of went into a lot of different tangents, but you know what? I'm just happy to be back here. I'm happy to be sharing some music with you guys. And maybe you learned something, maybe I got something wrong, but you know, I'll see you next time, and I'll definitely be bringing you some more music. I hope that you guys have a great day. Cheers.